Hey YouTube, it's Rob here with Urban Survival Tactics. Today I'm going to do a redo on one of my tutorials. I had a lot of questions about when I made the paracord net. Then you want to determine how long you want each of your strands to be. I recommend keeping them an even number, that way when we do the triangle design, it'll stay even all the way through. You also have to keep in mind that the length that you cut is going to be doubled over, so if you make 8-foot lengths, they're only going to be about 4 foot. And then also you're going to lose length as we tie the knots because it'll go upward. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take one of my strands, loop it even, and I'm going to take down one of the corners. It doesn't really matter which one. Just hold on to my thumbtack, and I just want to take these the best I can, and I prefer just a basic overhand knot. Now, as you can see, I lost about an inch. That's one way to do it. You can tie each one of your lines on here. We'll just go ahead and we'll do the other side now. Same exact concept. You don't have to use the overhand knot like I did. Any knot that you feel comfortable that won't slip, you can feel free to use that. You just have to be cautious that knots do slip. And we'll just take our thumbtack and we'll put that back on the wall. Now you get your next one, and you want to basically go for even spacing. You want to make sure you have it. Now another way to do this is to do a hitch, to basically put your loop behind your line and then bring it over and then just feed the line through. Put it behind, pull the loop over, and then just tuck all your slack through and pull it out. That works fairly well. The only problem that you won't have much of a problem of slipping, but they will move slightly in between your diamonds, but they can only move as far as the net allows. So you can either tie them the hitch like I just showed, and I'll go back and I'll do that again. You'd put this part behind the line, like so, pull this over, and then just grab all your slack and pull it through, and just hitch it on there. That's the way I'll do this, but you need to do the corners with real knots. And somebody also asked me about melting the paracord ends. This isn't paracord. I'm just using a basic Coughlin's camping cordage. I just wanted the spool. That's why I use this. I'm going to wrap my real paracord around this. This was like 50 feet for only like $1.20. I bought it just so I can get the spool. But we'll just repeat the process again, keeping in mind that you want to try to keep them evenly spaced. I'm using, I believe I cut 8. We'll just hurry that along. The background noise that you hear is my daughter playing with our new kittens. Today was the last day of school. Lucky me. Now we got the whole summer. Okay, so we just want to make sure all of our spacing is pretty good. And our slip knots on the top are nice and tight. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next step, which will be tying our first triangle. You want to grab the right side of your center. You shouldn't have a center because you have an even number, but the center space, 1, 2, 3, 4, your center space. Grab the left line on the right side and the right line on the left side, and as big as you want your diamond, make it that big, and then just do the same thing we did, just a basic overhand knot. Try to keep them nice and even. Try to get even amounts of cord. That way your bottom of your line is not too far off from each other. And you should come up with a triangle like that. And then you can go to either side, but you want to do each row. Never move down until you finish the row. So we move on to the one in the next segment, and you'll take the one line that's hanging down with the line that's closest to you on the other side. Go down to about the height of your knot, and then do the same thing, just a basic overhand knot. I think it's called an overhand knot. Just the simplest knot that everyone knows how to do. And then just make sure both lines are nice and taut. And there you go. Now you have two sections, and then do the same thing. Make sure they're even. Tie a basic knot. I'll finish this and I'll come back. Okay, we're back now. Now we have our whole entire first line done, and we have a line hanging down on one end and a line hanging down on the other end. We no longer have a center space, now we have a center line, or any line, as long as we still have this one straight down. So now we just start from the basic middle, and we do the same exact process over again with the overhand knots. What I'm going to do is just work to the left, that way I can show you what you do with that hanging line, but you can probably figure that out. Just tie your diamonds, and that's how eventually your net will look. Like I said in the beginning, we're just basically doing simple knots and just making sure they're nice and tight before we move on. Okay, now we come to this end piece. You want to take the line that's hanging down with the single line that you have left over and tie those together with the same type of knot. And there you have it. That's the beginning of your net. Now, we'll keep going. Depending how big your net is and how small your knots are, could be a tedious process, but it is kind of gratifying at the end to know that you made it yourself, or now that you possess a new skill. This doesn't have to, this net has 1,000,001 uses. You can use it as a net, you can use it as a makeshift rucksack, you can use it for fishing, you can use it to set a trap, you can use it to build your shelter. I mean, this is a false ceiling if you tacked it, but if depending how big the size is that you make, you could tack this between two trees, spike it into the ground with some homemade spikes, and you already have your frame. All you have to do is pile onto it. Same idea for the other side with the strand that's hanging down. You just make your basic overhand knot and tie that in. And again, always make sure they're tight. Now you have your first row of complete diamonds, and now you have a center point again. So repeat, and I'll come back and I'll show you after I get it almost completely finished. Okay, so as you can see, I've finished basically what I wanted to do. Now, you would want to get your line that you cut the same exact size as your top, and start the tedious process of tying off every single line. First, what you'd want to do is connect the end strand to your bottom line, and then tack that off nice and tight and as straight as you can get it, and then go to your opposite side and repeat the same process. The bottom of the net for me never looks as good as the top, but it serves its purpose all the same. All I'm doing is tacking it nice and tight to the wall and as squared as I can get it. And now for the bottom, you just want to take single strands and tie nice tight knots. This is where it would help if you know basic knot making skills. If not, it's really not that big of a deal. The same concept, just a basic overhand knot that everybody knows how to do, as if you were tying a water balloon or something. It's really nothing too fancy. And the better part of it is, if you were using paracord, this is still I forget what kind of material this is. This does melt, not in the same way that paracord does, but this does melt and seal. So after you tie your knots, if you wanted to, paracord, like I said, would be the best way to do it. But when you tie your knots off, you can snip the ends and melt the knots, and then you don't have to worry about them ever slipping. But you also have to take in consideration that you won't be able to untie it if you ever needed the cordage for something else. You won't be able to untie it without having to snip the knots off and lose a little bit of cord. But hopefully this video was entertaining, if not educational. Now, hopefully you've learned a new skill that you can add to your survival, bushcraft, camping, any type of tactic really. It's just a great thing to know, and it's a lot easier than people think it is. People just see a net and they think, oh wow, it's got to be difficult. It's actually not. Anyone can do it. Oh, I pulled the tack out of the wall. But I'm gonna stop there. I only have 2 more knots to go. But you get the idea. This is a basic way, probably one of the easiest tutorials you'll ever see on how to make a net. I could be wrong, but you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. All you're basically doing is tying knots in a sequence. The more you do, the thinner your cord too. On one of my videos, I just lost another tack. On one of my videos, I actually did a much smaller diamond pattern using the 7 inner strands of paracord, and that worked out quite well. And you figure that net was just as strong still. But there you have it. That's your basic net making. This isn't anything fancy, but as I said, it was only an example. But this is the same design that you'd want to do if you wanted to make an easy net that is still reliable and quick. Thanks for watching.